Hi, my name's Kobe Bailey, student athlete of 8 years at Central Coast Sports College and your CCSC podcast host. I'm going to be sharing with you throughout the 3-episode series all the ins and outs of the Big Picture program, as well as the history of CCSC and the future plans. So stay tuned for this 3-episode series where I'll touch base with Paul Chapman, Cameron Moon and Justin Shepherd. Stay tuned and enjoy. This is your host, Kobe Bailey. Welcome to the first episode of the CCSC podcast. I'm your host, Kobe Bailey. I'm here with my very special guest, Paul Chapman, the principal and owner of the school, who I'm very keen to talk about and get his opinion on a few topics. So, first of all, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for the opportunity, Kobe. I'm looking forward to having this chat.
Of course. So, I sort of wanted to start off with telling you the objectives of the podcast and sort of let the listeners know as well.
Yep.
So, I'm looking to have this podcast for any future sort of students that might be coming to the school. They don't know everything about it. Also, the parents to sort of ease them on it, and any even staff that are interested in knowing about how the school works.
Yeah, cool. All right.
So who else better to tell me than the man himself?
And also someone who's experienced it for multiple years.
Exactly. So for those that don't know you or what you do, would you mind just sort of...
Sure. My name's Paul Chapman, not that I say my last name very often. So I founded the school with another group of people, but it was my idea 2 years prior to opening, so 2013 we opened. Before that, I'd started thinking about it as a concept. It took about 2 years to turn it from an idea into reality. So my role, I obviously was the initial founder of the school with a group of 3 other people that helped me get it going. And then from there, we had 10 staff when we started with 76 students in the first group of kids that started with us in year 5 to year 10. And then obviously the subsequent years, we grew both directions down through to kindergarten up to year 12 over the next few years.
Yeah.
Now we've got just over 980 students at the school.
Amazing.
We can talk about it in a bit more detail about what our actual specific thing is. So obviously the principal of the school, I run the oversight in regards to strategic. We employed a deputy principal about 3 years ago now, a guy called Mark Brown, who's taken a massive load off me and has allowed me to be thinking much more strategically around what the next phase of the sports college looks like. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, nice. So do you actually remember the moment or how the idea came about specifically?
Absolutely, definitely. So I've got 3 boys. My oldest boy at that time, when the idea came, was when he would have been 7 years old at the time, and I grew up playing basketball, so I didn't have any exposure to. I played other sports, but basketball was my sport, and I grew up in an environment where we didn't do Saturday sport. So I didn't know anything about the club scene of sport, how clubs operate and that sort of stuff, because where I grew up, that wasn't part of what we did. So I remember when my oldest boy's name was Indigo, he was 6 years old, I registered him in the local Terrigal United Football Club back in the day. Yeah. And the first year, my head kind of exploded because I didn't really understand how just youth sport worked. I hadn't been exposed to it. And I realised fairly quickly after he'd been involved for 2 years, like I was the poor dad left standing at the end of the first season, who's going to coach next year, and everyone else sort of hidden on my hand. I was still on the front of it. So I coached in the second year. I had no idea what I was doing in regards to football. But, like most coaches, you look up stuff on the internet and you come up with your best ideas, etc. And, all volunteers and just trying to help out. But I realised through that period that this is just normal. Like, this is what happens in youth sport in Australia generally, So, and as over the next 2 or 3 years, like most parents, you think your kid's amazing. Indigo's lovely and amazing. So I was looking for lots of opportunities. And at that stage, the Mariners were running a whole bunch of holiday clinics. Called Damien Brown back in the day. He used to run those clinics. He was the first player the Mariners ever signed, and in his retirement, they employed him to run these clinics. And so I registered Indigo in all these clinics. I did that we did that for probably 3 or 4 terms or school terms, about a year where we were doing all those things. So, 1 or 2 nights a week we're at this club football scene. 1 or 2 nights a week I'm out doing all these private clinics. And at that stage we'd had our second boy, Xander. So he was about 2 at the time. And I remember doing that for about a year, and I realised after a while, it's just crazy. I'm driving around like a crazy person trying to give my child all these opportunities. But then I'm getting home late at night, my kid's cranky, I haven't eaten very good food because I didn't pack any food, so we got takeaway and all the rest of it. And I just started to realise this is not sustainable. And also in the club environment, we had great people working in the club environment. They were just people like me, they're just volunteers, giving about, but we didn't really know what we were doing.
For sure.
In regards to making sure there was really good development happening. So it was a bit of a luck of the draw.
Yeah.
You might happen to get a great coach, but you're also going to get a lovely dad or a mum who's doing their best. So I remember one day actually standing on the sideline watching him train, and he was literally just doing laps with the ball. Like they were just running around with the ball at feet. And I'm going, if I just want him to do fitness, I'd just enroll him in surf lifesaving or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like I want him to learn how to play football, but I don't know how to teach him. And so I started doing some research on the internet, and I came across an idea out of France actually, where I read about this professional soccer club or football club that had made a relationship with a local school, and they were actually, most of their academy kids were going to that school and they were training during the day. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool idea. And that's where the idea came from. Like I remember literally driving home from watching this training session and I'm going, this is nuts. And just started a research I read about this, go, wow, that's a really cool idea. So that's where the idea came from, and it was really about giving time back to families, so they didn't have to do what I was doing, but also give kids an ability to access high-level coaches, because for me, I was going, if you do that, you can actually employ full-time quality coaches to train during the day, and then and from there, right?
Well, I'm really interested as well, because was any of that the link between sport and academics? So
100%. All right, so before we opened, so for 9 months before I opened the school, we actually ran a series of football clinics at a Soccer Fives at Tuggerah. They'd just opened, and so we were running soccer clinics, and so I needed to find some coaches. So I went on LinkedIn back then, and I connected with Brad Porter. I didn't know him from Barasap, I just connected him through the platform. And I remember I had a meeting with him at Mingara. I went and had a coffee with him because we connected through this, and I said, I want to have a chat to you about an idea I've got. Gave him some work through the clinics, and then one of my aspirations was, because I already had the idea of the school in the back of my head, and we were doing the clinics to get enough kids interested to hopefully become our first students. And so I remember talking to Brad about his experience. So Brad went to the IAS in Canberra. So when he was at the end of year 10, like when he was about 15, 16, he's one of the strongest footballers in New South Wales. Back those days, AIS used to have a football program. So they would identify the strongest 18 odd athletes across Australia and invite them down to Canberra to do the year 11 and 12 to be part of the AIS program. So Brad was in that program. And now he just retired from playing because he got a pretty serious injury in his early 20s.
Struggled.
So he only did 5 or 6 years, I think, as a professional player. So he told me about his experience at IAS, right? And my goal was, okay, when the school's really going well, if we do well, hopefully when a kid gets to the end of year 10, if AIS knock on the door and give them an offer, they'll want to stay with us. And so that was, if we can compete with AIS, that was kind of aspirationally what I wanted to try and achieve. And then when Brad explained to me what his experience at AIS was like, I realised fairly quickly that we've got a massive opportunity here, because what their program was, amazing football program, one of the best around the world, and it's reputationally it's a very strong program. But the part where I feel like when Brad's description was, the part where it fell down is that they didn't really integrate the school part very well, because the boys in their program, they literally just dropped them in the local public school. Nothing against public schools, but what happened is that you've got 18 of these elite athletes dropped into a mainstream school where they're the minority. And so his experience was really terrible, because they were kind of, everyone was giving him a hard time because they're all the special boys and all the rest of it. And he said it was like his experience wasn't overly positive. And so for me, I'm saying, let's not really an integrated approach, whereas we've got this opportunity here to get the coaches to actually work alongside the teachers. It's one program, all the kids,
like-minded people.
All the kids here in the sports program. We don't have that us and them mentality. So I was really excited. Sad to hear about the program that existed down there, but also go, wow, what an opportunity. No one's going to do this. The other part, sorry, I'm going to,
no,
you know what I'm like, I go down rabbit holes. The other thing that I found really interesting, when about, I think 2 or 3 years into operating the school, I went to Europe with a couple of people from the school to do a bit of research to find out if we're on the right track. I wanted to test what we're doing against some of the best practice in the world. So we went to England and went to Germany, went to Belgium, visited a couple of other countries. But particularly when we're in England, we visited Reading, Brentford back in the day. They've just started their academy again. We visited Chelsea and a whole bunch of other clubs. But the thing I took away particularly from my visit to Chelsea's, if you've ever been to their academy, it's like the Disneyland of football. It's ridiculous. It was just, the facilities are off the charts. and they've run their academy for about 12 years back then, so it's probably 20 years old now. But the director of their academy at that stage, when I met with him and talked about, he told us what they do, etc. And he was even expressing to me the challenges they had with getting kids that are in school still. He said, we got this issue, we can't, like when the boys are 14, we can't get them released, and we always have this tension with the schools. And I described what he did, what we were doing. He was fascinated with our approach. I'm going, Chelsea's fascinated with what we're doing, like seriously, and not that turned into anything, but it actually made me come back to Australia with a lot more confidence. Is like we've got something pretty unique here. Like I wasn't seeing anyone else doing what we were doing, and that was internationally. So I'm going, okay, we've got something pretty special. Probably the closest model I've seen so far, and I'm sure there's stuff out that I haven't seen. The IMG Academy in the States is a pretty interesting model. I take a lot of inspiration with the way they communicate what they do, and we've visited their campus before, and it's a pretty cool setup. We're in a totally different market. We're not a super wealthy school, and we're trying to appeal to anyone that wants to come. We try to keep our fees low, but all the kids in their program are in their sports program, so it's there's probably similarities with what they're about. Yeah,
well, I found it interesting because I looked at this website. It had talked about the physical activity and academic achievement. So how it sort of goes hand in hand. Absolutely. So it looks at how sport, even just 20 minutes of moderate activity a day before you go into the classroom, can increase concentration, memory, and even like some kids' test scores. So
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's found it interesting.
It's interesting on that topic because I often have people ask me that question. It's like, how do you find the kids? Are they more engaged, etc.? It's not something we've actually measured or tested.
It's tough to.
And it's a bit of a gut feel, but probably the best example I can give you. One of the people I know really well that's done some work at our school. He was doing some casual teaching here. He said, "Look, as a casual teacher, one of your worst nightmares, and I'm not going to give anyone a hard time, but one of your nightmares as a casual teacher will be to have a year 10 group of boys." After lunch or whatever, it's usually, oh my goodness, this is going to be challenging because they're full of testosterone, they're going to try it on. But he said, this person said when he was teaching here and doing casual class, he's a casual teacher, everyone's going to try something on, I'm sure. He said the funny thing is when the boys came in, or the kids and the girls and boys, but when they came in from the training session here, they're much more settled. You've got all the the energy out of your body, and you're actually much more receptive to sit and listen and engage and have conversations. 100%. So and we have very minimal discipline issues, and I attribute that to two things: one, the physical activity, and two, we feed the kids.
100%.
Have you been hungry before? Yeah,
well, I've found like the days that I haven't, I don't know, for whatever reason, I've missed training or I'm injured or I didn't like the food that day or something. Even both of them together, I feel like I struggled in the classroom.
You're a bit off.
Because I'm a very energetic person and very talkative, so I've definitely seen the difference how the students see me in class, but be a bit disruptive. But that sort of leads on to my next sort of thing, talking about your passions yourself. So I know you've worked in the IT space for 12 years. Before we trained. Did a little bit of research.
You've been reading up on me.
Worked for Apple as well.
Back in the day.
So I want to know how those passions sort of linked into how the school is.
I've always been passionate about IT and computers and all that sort of stuff. I'm not a gamer. I never grew up being a gamer or anything like that. I was the kid, so back before Apple was cool, I was using one. So when I grew up as a teenager, I was the only kid in the class using an Apple and everyone else is using PCs. So all my mates were PC heads, they're all gamers, and I was a poor sucker who had the Mac. However, the reason I think that was really important that probably informed who I was as a person is that I always felt like a bit of an underdog. I was always the one doing something a little bit different or not following the status quo. And it always probably made me always start to question things. It's like, oh wow, it's interesting. Like, why do I do that? And they're all doing that thing over there. So I've never really followed the status quo necessarily. And someone like Steve Jobs, who founded Apple, like when I was at school, and I remember one of my bucket list things is I wanted to work for Apple. That was one of my aspirations. And so when I left high school, I did a computer science. I started a computer science degree. Interestingly, when I went through high school, I found schooling wasn't overly challenging because I had a pretty good memory. So in a mainstream context, you've got a good memory. You're probably an A school because it's got to remember stuff and regurgitate it. I'm being flippant, but that's a reality if you want to be successful in that type of learning.
Yeah.
So I did well. I got the marks I needed. I got straight into the course I wanted to university. 6 months in the course, I hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why was that?
It was all math, and I didn't mind math, but I didn't like it that much. Like, I didn't like it to the point where I wanted to do it all the time. And computer science, particularly, it's a really math-focused subject. And I didn't really understand that when I was at high school. It wasn't really explained to me. I didn't understand that that's what the industry was. So I changed to a business degree after doing computer science for 6 months. But I suppose on reflection, what it made me realise is that oftentimes we have this perception of what we think things will be. And so we'll put all this time and energy, commit long term to something, and then you get there and start doing it, you go, it's not what I thought.
Yeah, you've built it all up in your head, and it doesn't match the sort of standard.
Yeah, and so I actually went part-time. I got a job at a local Apple shop, which this is before Apple stores existed, but there was Apple resellers everywhere. So I was pretty stoked about that. And one of my attributes is I'm pretty persistent. So my strategy to get a job is I'd go to the shop almost every day and I'd just hang out in there and I'd talk to the staff, and I was just always there. So after about 6 months, the manager finally goes, dude, like, do you want a job or something? Like, you're here all the time.
6 months? Worth it in the end, though?
I worked within that industry for ages. I ended up getting a job through one of the Apple places as a IT support in a school, which is where I got it. That's where I got the idea to be a teacher. I was an IT support guy in the school, and I just really enjoyed it. I liked talking to all the teenagers. I enjoyed helping all those guys out as well as the teachers. And I had heaps of staff keep on saying, you should be a teacher. Like, you always get along with kids well. And so that's sort of where the teaching idea came from. And then I re-educated. But getting back to the Apple question, Steve Jobs, who's the founder of Apple, or one of the founders, I've always been a fan of. He's a pretty intense person. I never met him, but I know a few people that did know him. But he's one of those people that was just determined, didn't care about what anyone thought about him, was just totally purpose-led. Yeah. He just had a vision of what he thought the world could do, or how he could contribute to people. And he was famous for saying things like, people don't know what they want until they see it. So he wasn't a fan of doing market research and, we should go find out what all the customers want. No. He said, they don't know what they want until I show them. And I love that. Like, some original ideas come from that sort of thinking.
It's a cool mindset,
So, which is kind of the school when you think about it. Like, I didn't do any market research to come up with it. I had this burning desire. I said, something's not right. Like, I reckon I can meet the needs of a whole bunch of families by doing this thing that doesn't exist. We just did it.
Just went in. That's good.
And I took a lot of that inspiration came from my time at Apple, but then also reading all the books around Steve Jobs and hearing all the stories about him and all the fake lore that existed.
That's really interesting, because I've never really spoke to you about that sort of stuff. But
as getting back to that really quickly, my aspiration was to get a job at Apple. So I worked in the reseller channel for a couple of years, and by the time I was 20, I actually had a job at Apple headquarters. So I worked there for about naive, arrogant young person that I was back then. At the ripe old age of 21, I actually only left because I wanted a holiday. They wouldn't give it to me because of the way the scheduling worked. Probably my only career regret. But that was interesting. But I'm at 21, wanting, and I've got the job I wanted, working in the company that
off the bucket list.
So it's like, okay, what's now? And I got into self-development after that and worked for lots of different things. But
awesome. No, you're right. Of course, that's all right. So the current program at the school is obviously big picture, but I know that it obviously wasn't always that way. It was HSC to start with. I just want to talk about that journey. So we went from a HSC based school to sort of half HSC, then you had the choice of big picture, and now it's fully big picture. So I just want to sort of talk about that journey and what big picture is in your eyes.
Yeah, cool. So when we started the school, we started with an approach. So the term big picture and HSC, etc., you can define that as pedagogy. Pedagogy just means the way in which you teach. So it's the style of teaching essentially you use, or the framework you use to deliver. So as a school in New South Wales, we have a curriculum we need to follow. However, there's an enormous amount of freedom on how you deliver that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And every school's got that freedom. It's just we all choose different ways, and that's where the pedagogy comes in. That's a fancy word for it.
Never heard of it, but
most people don't. Just go to teacher college, and that's fine. It's teacher speak. So when we started the school, and if you remember, we started with project-based learning. So open learning space, you had a project and we would squeeze all the other subjects into your projects. It was pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
It was very challenging, and to be honest, we learnt a lot through those first few years. And it was really hard to extend that project-based learning approach into a HSC, because HSC is pretty...
Doesn't really link.
Well, it's pretty confined.
Yeah.
If you've got all these hour restrictions you got to meet, and if you don't have a lot of freedom to be too flexible with it. We pushed edge as much as we could, but we were still pretty confined.
And because I obviously didn't do the HSA,
yeah.
My brother did, who's not at school anymore, obviously, but it was more, as I understand it, classes sort of. So you have one teacher that's more better in that field. The teaches a class and
a subject area.
But now we have advisories, so I just want to
So through that journey, when we came across Big Picture, and Big Picture is just it's a pedagogy, it's a style of teaching, right? It was a methodology in how you deliver the education. When we discovered it, it was so aligned with what we were trying to do, but we were trying to come up with our own version.
Yeah, but it was already there.
You've been here for ages, right? So relationships have always been a big thing, right?
Yeah,
having a teach for multiple things, etc. And then when we came across Big Picture, we go, oh my goodness, like, it is so aligned to our values. Like it's so aligned about the importance of relationships, about interest-based learning. It brings in all those concepts that I've got about real-world experiences, and I'm ticking off all these boxes in my head and saying, let's check out maybe adopting this as a model, because we're trying to work it out for ourselves, and it's really hard to work it out for ourselves. So we were super excited when we discovered it. What I found interesting though, when we saw Big Picture initially, that time we visited a few schools that were doing it, and what I saw is that the schools that were doing it back then were using it as a bit of a place to catch the kids that have fallen out of mainstream education, the kid that was disengaged, the kid that was going to school. So one or two schools we visited, they had a mainstream school, and then they had a Big Picture program for the 40, 50 kids that were kind of not surviving.
Yeah, okay.
And it was rescuing them, and it was really good at that. But when I saw it, I go, oh my goodness, this is exciting, because it's not only meets the needs of these kids, it also meets the needs of the kids that want to go really fast.
It almost complements like what you were talking about earlier when it comes to, like, as you said, when you were younger, you sort of felt like you were off to the side from the group a bit. I feel like Big Picture sort of, everyone is in that group where they're a bit different in their own way, but they just follow what they sort of are passionate about, which is...
And the coolest thing about it is, I mean, one of the cheesy lines, and it's not a cheesy line, it's genuine, it's one student at a time. And for me, Big Picture allows you to actually, what are Kobe's needs, what are your goals and aspirations, and then we can build a program with you, and you take the lead in it, as you've gone on, you take the lead in your program.
For sure.
But it's your program, it's not your class's program, it's not the Unit 12 program, it's Kobe's program. And when I fully understood that, I was like, this is a no-brainer, right? Yeah. So when we sort of convinced ourselves, like, a Big Picture, we want to work out how we can roll this out, we were in a bit of a quandary, because we already had 10, 11, 12 kids going through the program. So ideally you start it properly in year 9 to really get into it, right? But we felt so guilty not giving our year 10 kids an opportunity to consider it at that time. So I remember we presented it to the year 10 kids that were there. So look, it's about a year behind, but we're going to see if we can make this work. Thinking we might get one class going and still have, I think we only had 2 streams back then, and we thought, well, maybe we'll still have 1 or 2 classes of HSC, and we'll have 1 class of Big Picture. It'll eventually be maybe 50-50.
Yeah, even out.
We just assumed that would be the case. So the process was going to be, we presented to the kids, we said, look, if you're interested in it, go and talk to mum and dad. If they're serious about it, come and have a meeting with us. Make sure everyone, because doing it, and it was a bit of a risk back then, it meant they weren't going to get the HSC. That was the risk, right? Yeah. So we said, there's a big decision, so parents need to come in, we'll talk to you about it, whatever. So we did that. Within 2 weeks, we had 2 full classes of Big Picture. Awesome, right? And by the end of that year, I had 2 kids left that didn't want to do Big Picture out of the entire year 10 class. So we go, okay, this has been pretty successful. Well, it's been very popular so far. We're not sure at that point if it's going to be successful, but we were pretty confident. So then over the subsequent 2 years, we obviously let the current year 11 and 12s finish off the HSC program, and 1 or 2 kids in year 10 at that point, we let them finish the HSC. So we were simultaneously running both. It was challenging. I'm interested to see, like, if there is a sort of way of working it out, but like where success comes from, if maybe the HSC students are more successful or the Big Picture students, you know. That's how you measure success, right? Yeah, well, true. It's a very big conversation, that one. Yeah, that one. Another time. Well, yeah, I mean, the fundamental mission of our school for me is about exposing you to what's out there in the world and giving you an opportunity to really try and understand what's out there. Well, the internship does it perfectly, doesn't it? 100%. Yeah. And what's super important to me is that as you get towards the end of your high school career, you're drawn to some sort of career or some sort of industry or some sort of post-school experience that's meaningful to you, and actually is going to make you feel like you're leading a purposeful life. That's success to me. When you actually go and when I see you when you're 25 and how you've been going for the last 6 years, Kobe, you go, oh man, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like you kind of really engaged in life.
Yeah.
That's what I want for our kids. I will feel desperately disappointed in 10 years' time if I go and see some of our graduates and they're, oh, I'm stuck at this job, I don't know what to do, I'm just doing it because I'm just a job. Like that, I would feel like a failure if that was the case. I want you guys to finish with conviction, full of life, full of purpose, get as much out of life as you can, and that's really what we're trying to do here. And I just can't see how we could do it at the moment without any other approach except for the way we're doing it with Big Picture. I think Big Picture provides us enormous flexibility to allow us to give you every opportunity to find what your right post-school pathway is, because it's such a flexible approach and we can meld it to suit you. I think it's even more even for a child that say like square boxes and just wants a path, it still suits that as well. Because you can go as deep as you want to go.
What you put into it's what you get out of it.
100%. Like if you wanted to study first year chemistry from university, you could do it here.
For sure.
If you're in a typical HSC program, you can't, because you're stuck to an 18-month path and then you do the HSC program at the end of it, that's it. But if you've got a topic area in one of your subjects you do in the HSC context that is not meeting your needs, you're not overly interested, but you really want to go deep somewhere else, you can't do that. Whereas here you can. It's going to be pretty hard to convince me. We're always open, and that's one of the things I pride ourselves on. We're always open to reflect on it. Are we doing the best we can do? And if we're not, we'll always challenge ourselves and look, what's around the corner? Is there anything else we need to be thinking about?
For sure. Now I want to talk to you. It's all right. So you're talking about sort of challenges. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of Big Picture? Where do you think, if anything, could or should be changed? What do you think would be the area? It's a tough one.
It's a really good question. I think that probably the biggest challenge is supporting our teaching staff to fully understand the gravity of the job they've got and the role they play with the kids. It's such an integral role, because they're not just your teacher, and that's why they're actually called advisors in our context, because they're not just a teacher.
Well, 4 years, a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely, and I actually was talking to my deputy this morning about this. They're really a life coach. Do you know what I mean? Which means that person that's in that classroom with the kids, they really need to be solid in their own life. They really need to have clarity about their own purpose to be able to provide good advice. And
for sure.
If I'm working with you, I need to know you well enough to know if Kobe needs a push, or if he needs a cuddle, or if he needs a redirect. You know what I mean? That's such a unique skill, and it's really hard to.
It's a lot more than just being a teacher.
It's such a complex job, because it's not you're not a purveyor of content. You're not just trying to work through a program. You're not just trying to get an ATAR score. I'm not trying to get you a band 6 in the HSC. I want you to find your purpose.
For sure.
That's hard.
It's tough.
So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is recruiting the staff that actually understand that's the role. And we've got plenty of staff that get that, and magic happens. When you see that staff member just connect with you guys and really understand what's important to you and actually help you along that journey, and the relationship they form with the families is ridiculous, because it's really easy, and you know this because you've been here for ages. It's pretty easy to float. And if you kind of look like, but the teacher will find out after a while if they know you well enough to go, okay, I don't think you're working probably to your potential. Let's you know what I mean?
For sure.
I think that's probably the biggest
I've been a victim to that. Everyone,
and if I'm honest, I think that's probably our biggest challenge, is how do we keep the rigour, the challenge for the kids. But I think that's where the skill of the teacher comes in. For sure. I've got to be able to identify that. When I see Kobe floating, can I see it? Can I call him out? Can I hold you accountable? Can you hold yourself accountable?
For sure. So I'd like to talk, because a big part about obviously the Big Picture program, we got the PEPs, which is personal interest projects, really personal exploration projects, and then also the internships. That's both interest-based learning. So I've read a little bit of the book that Sally's actually given me about Dennis Licky, I think,
one of
the author. Has a quote that says, I'm learning about my passion because I'm passionate about what I'm learning. And so I just wanted to sort of talk about why you think interest-based learning, does that sort of enhance how much they're sort of learning, you know.
It's fundamental to learning.
Yeah. Well, it's tough because you don't get that in the sort of mainstream as much, do you? You got all these set sort of subjects.
If you're a compliant person, like if you do what you're told, and if you're built that way, and you're not inherently question things, you'll be successful to the point of what typical people think is success in any environment.
Yeah.
Okay, because you'll just do what you're told and get on with it, right? For me, the next level of that though is how do I move you from compliance to full of life, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, be hyper curious. And if you look at young people, really young kids, they're inherently curious. You're going to look at a 6-year-old in the playground. You don't have to teach them anything.
Tasting grass and smelling it all. Yeah.
They're inherently curious, right? And our society knocks that out of kids.
I'm 18 and I'm still doing it.
But that's the thing I love about the environment we're trying to hold here. And it's not perfect, and we're always learning how to do this better. But human beings will spend more time looking, reading, checking things out they're generally interested in. You just think about how you spend your own
100%,
time. You do things you're interested in.
Yeah.
The things you're not interested in, you don't do and don't spend time on, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Or you get bored. It's my least favourite word in the human language. But because boredom's a choice.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
So I think curiosity, and it's directly linked to the interest, which is directly linked to learning. Because the more interested I'm in something, the deeper I'm going to go into it, the more I'm going to research it, the more I'm going to know about it, and yeah. So yes, and there's heaps of research, and you do study on it. There's so much research. If you look at high levels of engagement, how do you measure if someone's engaged? Autonomy, which means my ability to take control or make some choices, is a fun. If that doesn't exist in a learning environment, people don't learn.
For sure.
They also need to feel safe and connected through relationships.
Yeah.
Those 2 ingredients are super important, and then giving them some autonomy around what they can choose to do. It's like there's truckloads of research in that space.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. I was assuming an answer along those lines.
The challenge though, Kevin, you know this, the challenge for you guys and the student athletes coming through our school is how do you take that surface level interest to a deeper level?
For sure.
So
that's what I've...
interest, right? It's something that you go, I'm interested in podcasting, okay.
How do I?
Right? And is it just a fleeting interest, or is it actually a genuine level of curiosity and I'm actually really into this thing?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's sometimes it's just sampling until you find the thing.
Yeah, I definitely found that's the biggest thing. Like, it's so easy to say, oh yeah, I like doing this, I like doing that, but how do you actually get to that next level of research and stuff that you show at your exhibitions, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And then part of that I find it's always challenging. It's always going to be challenging here is when that next level is authentic. You're not just doing it because someone told you how to do it.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Our job is to help provide the guardrails to keep you in the bumper lanes. But like we need to continue to challenge all of us about that rigor. Okay, cool. Like you've got this interest. How do you take the next level? Like you're doing podcasts. Like part of this is being able to edit. Okay, how do you tell a good story through a podcast? How do you cut it in a way that's going to be engaging so your audience wants to listen to it? And that's that next level.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about, so how do you think that, well, we spoke about project-based learning and obviously the 6-year-olds are very curious. So how do you think that sort of is implemented at the younger ages to sort of prepare them for the big picture program when you get to my age?
So we came across a pedagogy like big picture in the junior school context called Walker Learning. Started by a woman by the name of Kathy Walker. About 25 years ago now, she's an Australian educator down in Victoria, came up with her own pedagogy, which is just an interest-based, play-based learning approach in the junior school context. She predominantly was doing it in preschools and lower primary. We were trying to come up with our own interest-based learning approach, and then we, like big picture, we came across Kathy Walker's work. And once again, she'd already developed heaps of resources, a really strong framework, and it was so aligned to what we were trying to do. So we go, wow, rather than us continuing to fight the battle of trying to come up with our own, we adopted a lot of the principles from Walker Learning. And it's the nice thing about it, where it really dovetails really nicely into big picture. The kids coming up through our junior school program are very used to doing interest-based projects. They're very used to tying concepts to ideas. That part of their program is about actually having a freedom of choice. So by the time they get to year 7 and 8, they've already started to develop some independent learning skills.
It's already starting to form, yeah.
So in 7 and 8, they start, substantial interest-based project. Like Tully, my youngest boy, he's in year 9 now. In year 7, he's a typical boy gamer. Not that it exists to boys, funny and girl gamers as well. But he's just one of those kids, like, put him on a computer game and he's going to go, he'll be there for 10 hours if you let him. But so in year 7, his project was to build his own gaming PC.
Oh, awesome.
He had a pretty rubbish PC.
Yeah.
So he convinced me that was going to be his project. He didn't convince me, he wanted to make that his project.
Yeah.
And so I had to deal with him that at school, all the kids from year 7 and up get part of their week is interest-based learning time. So they do that PAP, right? So that starts from year 7. So when you're in primary school, they've already started to do some interest-based personal projects. When they get year 7, that's part of their schedule. They get time. So Tully, and I think, I don't know exactly how long it is, but say it's an hour a week, he had time at school to research different parts of his computer. So he would come home to me and say, hey Dad, I did the deal with him, I gave him a little bit of money every fortnight so he could buy the parts. So over 3 months he bought all these parts. But he's doing all his research at school during school time in something he's interested in. So do you think he had any trouble keeping him engaged? He was fully into what he was doing, right? And he built it and he videoed himself, and at the end of that term he then presented back. He brought his computer in that he built at home and he presented that and he showed us how it was.
Well, fully worked and...
Oh, it was unbelievable.
That's awesome,
and
mate.
he did it all himself. Like the only part
it's the genetics, it's the IT, the IT work.
I was very upset it was a Windows-based computer, but that's a different conversation. Right. But the thing that I was blown away with that in my own, as a parent, experience is that was totally driven by him.
Yeah.
There was no adult intervention at all. The adult intervention was, Tully, that's amazing, or wow, and he recorded his whole process. He built a website that was his essential journal of things. Right. He did a video recording of the whole thing, but it was all totally driven by him. So, like, I'm sitting there going, how did he learn about the parts? Because I used to teach computers at high school. Like in my previous school, I used to teach kids how to do computer stuff, and I'm used to teaching kids about the different parts of a computer and all this sort of stuff. Tully's learnt all this stuff based on his own learning. So there was a game called PC Builder, I think it's called, on his PC. That's how he learned how all the parts of the computer worked.
It's crazy. In year 7?
Yeah. So like he knows what RAM is, he knows what the graphics card is, he knows all the different types, he knows if he gets one that's got whatever, it's going to give him this different,
that's so impressive.
Different frame rate on his screen. I was like, dude, like...
I have no idea about any of that stuff, eh?
But once again, it comes from his interest.
Yeah.
He's gone really deep into it, and we gave him the time at school to be able to go deep into it. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's what it's all about, yeah.
So I just sat there going...
Heaps proud,
it's working.
Yeah, that's it.
And there's countless examples of other kids that have had those type of experiences. Like I remember one of the boys in year 7 a couple of years ago built a motorbike in year 7 because his dad was real. His dad loved to tinker with stuff with him, and so his dad and him in his personal project, he basically rebuilt a motorbike. He took an old bike, pulled it all apart.
Yeah, awesome. When was that? Sorry,
a boy in year 7 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. Because I think there's someone doing that in year 10 now as well. I saw the other day, and I was walking past and he's like starting up this motorbike, and I was like, did you build that? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, it's crazy.
But
it's
how
awesome.
Cool is that kids get to do that as part of their school?
Oh, it's amazing.
Whereas normally that would be, I've got to harass Dad if I can do it with him on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. It's taking up your sort of weekend, for sure. Yeah. So we spoke about sort of the past and where we are. I want to sort of, I want to tap your brain about what the future looks like for Central Coast Sports College.
That's some fairly confidential information I can't talk about just yet, but I've always aspirationally, when I started the school, I didn't actually expect us to grow this big. I never envisioned us to be as large as we are now. All that being said, it's obviously bringing the other sports into the school has allowed us to grow.
Because originally we went IFS, IFTS.
Yeah, we started International Football School.
Yeah.
And we had tennis from day one, which most people don't know. We had 2 tennis players. And the only reason we had 2 tennis players is because I remember before we opened, I had a phone call from a prospective parent. Said, look, my daughter's a tennis player. The school she goes to gives us a hard time every time she's got a comp. He said, I'm sick of getting grief off the school because she's serious about her tennis, and so she goes to comps every second week on a Friday or whatever. She goes, if I can organise a coach, can she come to your school? And when the guys are doing football, she'll just do tennis for their own coach, and then will that work? And I was desperate for kids, so I was like, well, why not? So that's why we had 2 tennis players, and so she found someone else to do tennis with her. So we had 2 tennis players and 74
footballers. I had no idea about that. I thought it was only when we went to the IFTS.
So we had 2 tennis players from day one and 74 footballers. After term 1, a guy called Greg Brownlow, so this family had organised their own coach, right?
Yeah.
About a term into the school, a guy called Greg Brownlow from up in Newcastle read a story about this crazy person called Paul that had opened up a school with some people, and So he met with me, and he was running his own tennis clinics up in Newcastle. He ran a couple of tennis centres, and he's been a tennis coach for a long time. He harassed me. He knows that. And he harassed me for quite a while to give him a job because he was so excited, and he had the opposite problem. He was running the tennis centre, and he was struggling working with the schools to get the strong tennis players to be released from school. He read about what we're doing and going, man, that's the answer. How do I get a job working with these guys? So he came down, and I eventually gave him a job. Within 2 years, Greg, the sensational job, he grew a tennis program from 2 kids to 50 kids. We actually took over the Gosford Tennis Centre in 2014, and we operated that for 2 years. Changed the name to International Football and Tennis School, as you remember. And about 4 or 5 years in, we decided to launch netball. And at that point, I realised the name of the school was going to get too long because International Football, Tennis and Netball School. And I was like, that's not going to work. So in 2018, through a process of really getting a lot of feedback, we rebranded the school to Central Coast Sports College. We obviously launched rugby league around that time. Dance and basketball came in a couple of years ago. And where we are now, this site has the potential to. We've got a DA in with Central Coast Council at the moment to increase the capacity to about 1,200 kids.
Is that your goal, to reach the capacity, or?
Yeah, I think this site can cater for about 1,200 students. We need to put more classrooms in.
But in the open area, I definitely agree.
We've got enough sports,
massive school.
We've got enough sports space. We need an indoor centre. That's on the list of things that we'd like to
like
have.
as in futsal, or like
just a
bit of both?
Multi. So basketball, futsal, whatever, netball, etc.
That'd be awesome.
So that's a big ticket item for us that we need. We need an artificial field. Every time it rains, it's a nightmare. So the two big ticket items from a sport perspective is we need an artificial field and an indoor sports centre. So they're, I'm not going to let too many cats out of the bag because one of those things is probably sooner than we all think, which is exciting.
Oh no! As soon as I graduate, of course.
We've had a really close relationship with the Mariners, as you know, pretty much from day one. So through that relationship, though, the Mariners actually, we're getting a lot of traction with them, the state government, around an artificial field, and it's looking pretty positive. We're pretty hopeful that will probably come to fruition over the next not too distant future. When it's all formalised, to be able to get it out there, and we have timelines in place, but that's looking really positive.
That's awesome news,
Yeah, absolutely. So indoor centre's a whole different conversation. It's so expensive, but similarly,
it'd be amazing.
We're working really close with Central Coast Basketball. They've got aspirations to eventually have an NBL team one day on the coast, so I think through that collaboration we can make something magical happen up here as well for basketball, which will bring us an indoor centre, and so the future looks pretty bright for the kids here on this campus. I'm pretty keen to take this model to other places.
Awesome.
I think I almost feel guilty that you guys have this experience in my
I know. It's almost the case everywhere you sort of go. Like at my first school, Womble Public School, which went there till I was in year 3. As soon as I left, I went back there 1 year after I left, and I was like unrecognisable, that place. Like they had all new basketball courts and everything as soon as I left, and I'm like, where was this when I was there? So
just think about your brother that he comes back now and sees all that.
I know.
And you got new bathrooms or been nightly renovated, you got new classrooms.
I know.
It's a challenge, obviously, when you're
consistently growing.
When you're going through a startup phase, which we have been obviously for quite a while now. We're getting to a level of a bit of maturity as a school, and we can do some of the fine stuff now. Like we'll probably the toilets at the top block got renovated.
They're nice.
Start of the year, sensational. Super expensive to do that sort of work. It was over $500,000 to do that renovation. We'll also do the renovation. This is not public knowledge, but it's more than likely going to happen. We'll renovate the toilets in this block at the end of this year, most likely. We'll just have the designs come back on that. So that'll be the next sort of minor upgrade. Got more classrooms to put in over the next couple of years. Artificial fields in planning. Those things will just tick along. But I'm actively looking at what the next phase of what our offering could be. How do we serve other people in other areas, and lots of exciting things happening.
I'd love to see it. So it brings me on to my last topic. I've been loving talking to you, but I've got to sort of centre it in. So my last question, if you had any piece of advice for myself and even my year 12 or future year 12 students going into the real world, what's your one piece of advice?
It's a great question, Kobe. For me, my advice would be something that I've learned over many years. And it sounds really corny and it's hard to define it. Try and pursue what you find purpose through. So live a life of purpose, essentially, and whatever that means to you.
Don't just live. Yeah.
Don't just be satisfied.
Don't exist.
Satisfied.
Yeah.
Don't just satisfied. Don't just exist. Like I want for you guys to be able to wake up in the morning and be excited about life, not wake up and dread what you're about to do.
Yeah.
So for me, my advice for that is, it's not YOLO, but it's live in the moment.
Yeah.
Like now is what's important. Don't put all your eggs waiting for the future, and don't stress too much about the past. You can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Just learn from it.
Just embrace the moment now, and put things in place that make sure that the things that are really important to you get to go and experience, and get to go and do, and live a life of purpose. And that's different for every single person.
Yeah.
Some people find purpose out of serving others. Some people find purpose from achieving things personally, whatever. Just it sounds corny, and I don't know how else to define it, but just live a life of purpose.
Yeah. No, awesome. Very inspirational. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank you. That's Paul Chapman, guys.